Chapter 2.
What are they doing?
Asked Detective Inspector Thomas Andreasson. Thomas was on board one of the finest police boats in the flotilla, a 52-foot Streets Boat 90 that could reach speeds of 40 knots. Thomas had been her captain during the years he'd worked with the maritime police, but his best friend, Peter Lagerlöf, commanded her now that Thomas had joined the crime unit at the Nacka police station. When Peter had asked him if he wanted to come watch the start of the Round Gotland race, he hadn't hesitated. One never said no to a day on the water, especially when it included Sweden's largest offshore race. Now his trained policeman's eyes noticed that something was going on at the starting line. A magnificent Swan 601, the first in its class, rounded up in the wind and headed away from the starting area. It was a strange and unexpected maneuver when she should be on a straight course toward Almagrundet on her way to Gotland.
Hand me the binoculars,
he said, his hand already outstretched to receive them. He lifted the black Zeiss binoculars to his eyes and rose to his full height for a better view. The Swan was now headed into the wind just beyond the starting line. She'd lost the lead and was already last in the field, the others sailing swiftly ahead. One of the crew members on deck was waving both arms high over his head, a classic emergency signal on the water. Thomas could see the crew member's desperate face through his binoculars. His stomach churned. Something was seriously wrong on board.
What do you see?
Peter asked, squinting into the sharp sunlight.
Something's happened in the cockpit. There's a crowd standing by the wheel.
Thomas focused the binoculars.
Someone seems to be lying on the deck and not moving, but it's hard to tell.
Peter turned to his subordinate at the wheel.
Head over to the Swan.
His colleagues swiftly changed their course and sheered toward the sailboat. As they approached, the young man on the foredeck yelled to them,
"Our skipper has been shot!"
He gestured wildly.
"Some damned idiot is shooting at us!"
He stopped yelling as he realized they could still be in danger. He crouched down and pressed himself as close to the mast as he could, his eyes filled with fear and confusion. Thomas looked around without knowing what he might find. It was impossible to spot a threat in the throng of boats. The spectators on nearby boats didn't seem to understand what had just happened. They were busy watching the sailboats head off into the distance. Sunshine danced on the surface of the water, and behind them the huge starting vessel loomed. The outline of Sandhamn and Korsør Tower could barely be seen. Thomas realized how serious this was. He had just witnessed a murder, along with hundreds of competitors and audience members during one of the most important sailing races in the world. This was going to become a media circus of giant proportions. An enormous yacht approached. She was a Stora Bru 500, 50 feet long with many stories. The finely polished mahogany glistened. Through the bright sunlight, Thomas could make out a group of men and women looking down on them from the flybridge, an outdoor space with a set of controls from which the boat could be maneuvered. A middle-aged man with a captain's cap and a sweater with the Royal Swedish Yacht Club emblem stood at the wheel. When they were just 10 yards from the police vessel, he leaned down to speak to Peter.
"What's the matter?" he yelled. "Keep your distance," Peter answered.
It was not easy to maneuver so that neither the Swan nor the yacht came too close. A collision was the last thing they needed.
"We have Juliander's wife on board. How is her husband?"
In the cockpit of the Emerald Gin, a man in his 50s with silver hair and glasses stood up. His sweater was flecked with red, and he appeared dazed and shocked by what he'd just seen.
"Someone shot Oscar,"
he yelled to the man in the captain's hat.
"Oscar's dead."
Thomas noticed a woman with light brown hair lift her hands to her face before she moved out of sight. Then the thunder of a helicopter overhead cut off all communication.